Rev up your engines! All right, here we have an interesting tale. A Honda Accord that burnt oil, but now it doesn't. And he didn't have to rebuild the engine. Well, how was it done? You're gonna find out. Now, this 2012 Accord has the variable cylinder activation system on it. It can turn some cylinders on and off. And as I've been warning people with any type of car, you do not want that system because it causes irregular wear inside the engine. This is a 3.5 liter VTEC with a variable cylinder management system. What happens is it turns off some of the cylinders at certain speeds to get better gas mileage. But realize this, an engine was designed, this is a V6, for all 6 cylinders to operate at the same exact temperature. So the thermal expansion and contraction of the various metals and parts is exactly the same. But you turn a couple cylinders off, guess what? Those cylinders are gonna run colder than the other ones because they're not having ignition firing in them. It screws up engines. In this case, 117,000 miles, it was burning oil. He took the car to a Honda dealer, and what did they say? Well, your engine's burning oil. You need a new engine, and they wanted a small fortune. Now, they wanted $5 grand up to put a used engine in the car. But he watched my videos, and look what he did. He had the variable cylinder management system bypassed on the car. Now, the honest kits, if you look them up on the internet, will say if your piston rings and bore of your engine aren't all worn out, this can stop these variable cylinder management systems from making your car burn oil. And voila, 8,000 miles after putting this kit in, it's not burning any oil now. I'm not making this stuff up. These variable cylinder management systems are crap. You can't have a machine that's designed to have the same temperature across all the cylinders and then shut some of them off where they're going to be ice cold. It doesn't work. Just realize the sooner you catch it, the better. He was only going through 1/3 of a quart between oil changes. Now it's not using any at all. If you got one that's burning 1/4 of oil every 500 miles, I mean, I still would advise you to disable the system to keep it from getting any worse. But by then, just like the honest kit sellers will tell you on the internet, it's too late. It's already worn inside. I mean, it'll keep things from happening in the future, but it's only common sense that a system like this is going to cause problems because of the thermal difference in all the cylinders. An engine wasn't designed to have one piston firing, then one not firing, then one firing, and then change it back and forth. And just like those turn your engine off when you come to a stop to get better gas mileage auto shut-off systems, they're even worse because 90-something% of the wear of your engine is upon starting the car up. So the last thing you want to do is turn your car off, start it up, turn your car off, start it up while you're driving down the road. And as per usual, the manufacturers say, oh, we put in stronger bearings, stronger timing chains, a stronger starter because it's going to wear up and down. Notice though, they don't say they put in a stronger battery because they want to make them as cheap as they can, and they put the cheapest battery they can get away with when they sell you a car. And anyways, most of that stuff is nonsense. The engine is still going to wear out faster because it shuts off. The oil goes to the bottom of the engine. Then it's got to be pumped up to the top. Well, when you start it, the top's spinning, but it's not full of oil. It's going to cause wear. They can give you all the baloney in the world. Then, let's say you have a GM vehicle. You get one and it starts burning oil like that. You take it to the dealer and they say, oh, well, that's normal. They all burn oil like that. You're out of warranty anyways. Maybe you want to buy this new one over here. They'll try to sell you another car. Really, they're stupid ideas that should have never been implemented. But of course, as usual, the engineers are given a task to make them go faster or make them get better gas mileage, and don't worry about the long-term effect. We really don't care. You really can't blame the engineers. They're just doing what the devil tells them to do. They're not coming up with these ideas of how to break them faster. Although maybe they are, I don't know. It's a bad design. And in the case of these, in any car that's got that variable cylinder deactivation system, my advice, disconnect the stupid thing. Your vehicle will last longer. Now, granted, he is getting about 4 or so miles per gallon less in stop and go traffic because it will make the engine burn like an old V6 Honda. You know, let's face it, if you want gas mileage in a car, you don't buy a V6, you buy a 4-cylinder engine. They make these with 4-cylinder engines too. You get a choice of what you want to buy. You want a V6 that's got more power, trying to make it get the gas mileage of a 4 and have the power of a 6. As you see, they burn oil. And if you think about it, so what if you get 4 miles a gallon less? They wanted $5,000 for a used engine with no guarantee of how long it's going to last. And you can buy an awful lot of gasoline with $5,000. And you're only losing maybe 4 miles a gallon. On a highway, it isn't going to make hardly any difference at all. You're just cruising, There isn't that much strain. You might lose 2 miles a gallon or 1 mile a gallon or something like that. But your engine is going to last longer. And unfortunately, the worst time on earth to run cylinder deactivation is at highway speeds, because then the engine's running faster, it's putting out more heat, so some sides are going to get hotter and it's going to make things even worse. You're driving a car slow, it's going to wear out slower. You're driving it fast and it's got a problem, it's going to wear out faster. So if you've got one of these variable cylinder cars and you care more about the long life of your engine and your pocketbook, believe me, you're better off deactivating the stupid system, getting a little bit worse gas mileage, and you won't have that transition when it goes from 3 cylinders to 6 cylinders and then goes back down again, and realize that's a computer controlled system. It's extremely complex. They themselves also break down over time and they cost a fortune to repair. You're better off just disconnecting the stupid thing, have it run as a regular V6 engine. Or if you really want to get better gas mileage, get a 4-cylinder or a hybrid. I was just reading an article about Toyota, and their big seller now is the Venza SUV. You know, Toyota stopped making the Venza. It's too expensive for where it is. They stopped, but now they make it again. But they have a hybrid version. It's an SUV. It gets combined 35 miles a gallon because it's got a 4-cylinder engine and it's a hybrid. If you're really into gas mileage, go hybrid. Don't go cylinder deactivation, because it is just plain stupid. And here's some bonus questions and answers. Rippo Cat says, is it possible to pop start my Type R since it is a start button instead of a key? Well, of course. The only difference is just push the button so the idiot light comes on. As long as the idiot lights are on, that means there's power going to the ignition system. So then when you pop the clutch with it in gear, it'll start the car. Instead of having the starter spin the engine, you're having the wheels spin it. When you pop the clutch and the wheels spin on the ground, spin the engine. If you're going to do it, start it in second gear. It works better that way too. The only difference between a key and a push button is the key, you just turn it to the on position, where the push button, you just hit it so that the idiot lights stay on, so your ignition's on, and then pop the clutch. Jason Stark says, Scotty, got an 05 Chevy Silverado 6-liter. I keep getting PO300 random misfire. I change plugs, coils, wires. It keeps getting the code. What can I do? I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but that probably has a fuel injection problem. The old 5s are notorious for it as they age. Misfire means the engines aren't firing correctly. It doesn't mean it's necessarily an ignition problem. It can also be a fuel problem. A lot of times those injectors, they start going bad, or the wiring to them goes bad, and then you get a misfire. And it'll be random because it'll be moving all over the place. Let's say you have a problem in cylinder number 1. Then you get a code for cylinder number 1 fire, not intermittent. Yours is intermittent, meaning it's going all over the place. Since you changed the obvious things, it's probably the fuel injection system. You could try pressure cleaning the fuel injectors. A lot of times they just flat wear out and you got to replace them all. Have a mechanic analyze it. He could tell you within an hour of driving it, looking at the data from a road test on his fancy scan tool. All that information means a lot to a mechanic. They could explain it all to you. I mean, you can clean the fuel injectors right away. Maybe that'll fix it. Try some cleaner yourself, right? But if you want a real analysis, the mechanic would road test it, all the data being memorized on his fancy scan tool, and then reading it back, and he can see, aha, this data's off. Why is this data off? Well, the fuel injectors, look, they're pulsing wrong, and then you try to clean them. Or if they're bad enough, you got to replace them. Nobody Maine says, Scotty, got a 2014 Hyundai Elantra with B1112 low ignition voltage code, 135,000 miles, battery and alternator are fine, I got them checked. Could it be the spark plugs? I doubt that it's the spark plugs, because if you actually had worn spark plugs and they were worn, the gap was too big, you'd have high ignition voltage because it would be using extra electricity to fire them. You could have bad coil on plug assembly, the ignition coil assemblies, the 4 of them. When they go out and they don't get the right voltage because they're shorting out inside, you can get them aftermarket cheap enough, and don't guess with one. Just buy all 4 and replace the entire coil assemblies. I mean, while you're at it, pull out the spark plugs. If they're worn, replace them. But being worn, it will not get low. If they're actually worn, it'll have high voltage, not low voltage, because it requires more voltage to jump the bigger gap than the smaller gap that it's supposed to be when it's new. Crash X says, Scotty, I got an 84 B2000 made in Japan. I want to bring it to you. Are you interested? Sure, I like those old trucks. I'm already booked up in Rhode Island, but I'll be back July, August, September in Clarksville, Tennessee. You come visit me then if you're around Tennessee. I'd love to make a video out of that. Those are interesting trucks, especially the ones that are made in Japan. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.